So today I'm going to tell you a story about this pretty little engine I like to call the Turbo Barra. She's big, she's mean, and she is bloody fast. A lot of people don't know about this engine. It's an Australian secret. And today I'm going to tell you why I think it is one of the best engines ever made. Picture this, you've just moved from America. You arrive in Australia, the land down under. You're ready to go. You're a car enthusiast. What are you gonna get? V8, of course. Plenty of LS's here. You even got a lot of JDM cars to choose from also. So you've got quite a bit of a choice to choose from there, Jimmy. He ends up buying a V8. Pulls up to the lights. What pulls up next to him? A four-door family sedan that almost looks like it was a Ford Taurus. As Jimmy looks over at this unimpressive Ford, the owner gives him the head nod. And Jimmy knows that means only one thing. When this light goes green, it's on. And he's thinking to himself, is this guy for real? He's revving his V8, it's making noise, people are stopping, they're watching, they got their phone out. The light goes green, Jimmy's off. The V8, the torque, that instant go. He's off down the road. He's pushing it. What does he see in his rear view mirror coming up behind him at an insane rate? Is that unassuming four-door Falcon? This has got the Barra, the Turbo. And Jimmy has not known what has hit him. He is just blown away, depressed, and just left in a daze of confusion. That, my friends, is the power of the Barra Turbo. This is not a joke, Jesse. Do not do it, man. 2K in a Barra, and you better watch yourself. Now, this shirt is not for sale, guys, but I do have my own shop where I sell hats and stuff. A couple of fun stickers if you want to check that out. And if you guys like this shirt, and enough of you guys say you want one, I'll do my best to get it on the shop. Like, could you guys just imagine for a second if Paul actually did run a Barra in one of the early Fast and the Furious? Because that was right around the time that these engines were coming out. And man, I know just deep down in my gut, he would have approved so much. He would have approved of this Barra so badly. And I would have loved to have seen him ripping a Falcon. That would have been epic. And he would have been winning a lot of street races too. Now this is honestly the power of the Barra. And that inline 6, 4-liter, dual overhead cam, it is just so impressive. And the moment you drive one, you just understand everything that everyone talks about it, understand the beauty of it, and just want one. You just want one. Now, horsepower ranged from about 320 horsepower in the early motors to the last one, the most powerful one, being about 440 horsepower. Now, the legendary Ford Barra was produced and manufactured here in Australia, and it was only available to Australia and New Zealand. So literally no one else got this beautiful engine. And it was almost a crying shame because this really was a gem of an engine. And if it was sold internationally, I really think it would have taken off tremendously. They did offer the Barra in a few different variants, so you could have got these as a naturally aspirated engine, a turbocharged engine, or you could have had it even as an LPG, which a lot of the Aussie taxis used, and it was just completely bulletproof. This engine, no matter what configuration you have it in, it's just so strong, and it can just take the power. Boost, boost, boost! And an easy way to tell what Barra you've got is just to look at the rocker cover. So if it's black, it's going to be a naturally aspirated Barra. If it's a red one or a blue one, you are dealing with a turbocharged model. And if it is a green one, Well, mate, slap her in the drift car, you just got an LPG beauty. And I've got a blue one, so that means it's an FPV, so Ford Performance Vehicle, so kind of the AMG version of the Barra. And they did get quite a few nice little upgrades, bigger turbo, some reinforced parts internally. Really nice to have. And funny enough, the Barra is actually named after a fish, not a barracuda, but a barramundi, being Australia. Now this was actually a code name for the BA Falcon when it was being produced, and that's why they used that name for the engine, because the BA was the first Falcon to receive that godly Barra. And one of the fascinating things to me has always been that the turbo version of the Barra versus the naturally aspirated version is basically the same engine. It's just got a turbocharger on it. Now the turbo model did receive different pistons to help with lower compression, did get higher fuel pressure, did get different exhaust valves, and a single big spoolie boy, a Garrett GT 3582R turbo. That was it. Different pistons, ramp up the fuel pressure, chuck that turb ski in there, and how you going, boys? This taxi just went from picking up the kids from school to going to the bloody racetrack and putting down nines. It is absolutely insane. And the amount that you can actually do to one of these engines is just huge. If you want to really spend a little bit of money on this thing, you do the bottom end. With a stock block, these can do over 1,500 horsepower. And I've seen them go as high, I believe the world record is something like 2,200 horsepower. And some of these drag cars are still using the factory block and doing this kind of racing. It is absolutely insane. And that's really the big difference when you compare this to, say, a 2JZ or an RB. They're both inline sixes, turbocharged, but being that 4-liter, you just get that torque factor. And being the bigger engine, you can really dial that boost up and it holds it. That's really the amazing thing, because if you've got the money to import this engine, to put it into something you really want to, you can build this thing to 1,000 horsepower and be very, very reliable. You know, if you've built the bottom end up, you've done the supporting mods to it, it can reliably hold down 1,000 horsepower all day, every day. You could drive this thing as a daily if you wanted to. That is seriously the thing about it. And these Barras, they just, again, they were used as a taxi engine, so they can rack the Ks. Countless Barras here are well and truly over 200,000 kilometers, going into the 300s plus. They're still on the road. They're still hauling ass, and they're still chopping LSs. I'll tell you guys, it is no joke. And even the LS community, they know that you're going to have a big problem if you're running an NAV8 against a turbocharged Barra. Now just quickly, a huge shout out to this week's Patreon supporters. If you guys want to join the Patreon, get early access to content, videos, merch, there is a link in the description, so check it out. And you got to give it to the Aussies for coming up with such an outrageous vehicle. A four-door taxi that looks like it's some kind of Ford Taurus from America that's being flipped upside down. And they put one of the most godly engines in the front of it, turbocharge it, and whack a whole bunch of horsepower. Take it to the tuner, do a couple of supporting mods, and you're going to be pushing 600 wheel horsepower, sending it just about everywhere. And it's just hilarious. I honestly think it's so cool that they did this. And this was even offered in the Ford territory, which only Australia and New Zealand got once again. I know you guys in America, if you are watching this, you're going to be kicking yourself right now, being very angry to Ford as to why they did not bring this over there, because they 100% should have. It's an amazing, amazing machine. Now, to anyone wanting to import one of these Barras over to their home country, you can do it. It is reasonably cheap. Just keep in mind, if you're going to get parts or anything, you're probably going to have to import those as well. Just keep that in mind. Personally, my favorite would be the Barra 310 Turbo. I do not think you're ever going to get a Barra 325 because those were only available in the sprint models, and if you got one of those and took it out of Australia, people would hunt you down and you could not sleep at night. But get a Barra 310. There are a lot of them, and they are really probably the best Barra going. You can really push huge amounts of power through them. They were like the most updated one, and they were featured in the FG. I personally have fell in love with the Barra after driving one because growing up, I was always a JDM guy. I love the JDM scene. I love the JDM cars. Turbochargers always fascinated me, and the noises they made. I was just always really keen to get one myself. And honestly, when I drove the Barra, the fact that they were so cheap, the fact that they were so fast, the fact that they were so fun, it kind of ticked all the boxes because it was a practical car, it was a reliable car, it was a fast car, it made all the turbo noises, it was cheap, and it drove really, really well. So I've always thought that the Barra kind of just scratches that JDM itch on my back and also still gives me kind of that muscle car vibe, even though I think technically you call them an AUSDM. Very confusing, but something like that. So yes, people, if you want to get a Barra, get one while you can, because they aren't making them anymore and they're going to be taken up very, very quickly. So I would be grabbing as many Barras as you possibly can right now and just hold on to them, because they're going to be real treasures when all of this electric kind of stuff starts coming into play. I'm going to want to have my Barra. So I got one in the garage. I ain't getting rid of it. Thanks for watching and enjoy some of these clips.
Thank you.